Can the Blue Jackets win 6 games in a row? Well, maybe if they can take advantage of the 31st place team in the NHL. Also coming up today on Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. And I also have to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. We'll talk about the Sharks today. Second of two games, the Blue Jacket, second of two games against the Sharks this season, I should say. Blue Jackets lost the first one in overtime, 2-1, from a heroic performance by Vitek Vanacek, who made 49 of 50 saves. Alexander Wenberg with the overtime goal. A really frustrating game, all things considered. But the Blue Jackets have bounced back from the struggles that they were having at that point in the season. I think that was their third loss in a row in a 6-game losing streak. And since then, the Blue Jackets have bounced all the way from, kind of near the bottom of the Metropolitan Division to fourth place in the Metropolitan Division and a not a safe playoff spot yet, but they are hanging on to that playoff spot. However, there are teams right behind them, so they have to keep pace with the Senators, the Canadiens. So again, a quick recap of the standings. Blue Jackets 48 points, Senators 47, Canadiens 46, Detroit, Flyers, Penguins all sitting at 44. The Rangers sitting at 43. So within 5 points of the playoff spot, there are 6 teams. In terms of who's playing tonight, the Senators are playing the Capitals, which might be helpful because the Capitals are pretty good this season. The Red Wings are playing the Panthers, the Flyers, and the Islanders are actually playing each other. Montreal is playing Dallas. The Rangers are playing Utah, and Pittsburgh is not active tonight. So, lots of teams in play. Blue Jackets need to keep pace. Luckily, the Sharks are better than they were last season, but still not great. They are, by all accounts, fun this season, as opposed to last season where, it was just abject misery. Misery helped them get Macklin Celebrity, who has done a lot for the fun of this team, let's say. They are 14, 26, and 6 this season so far. They are sitting at the bottom of the league in the standings. They are, I think, as of right now, the 31st place team. They are 3-7-0 in their last 10 games. They've got wins over Tampa Bay, New Jersey, and the Red Wings. The Red Wings is the most recent win. Before that, they had lost 3 in a row. So they are looking to kind of maybe try and string some wins together. However, Blue Jackets excellent at home, and again are on a hot streak right now. 5-game win streak, which is the longest active win streak in the NHL right now. The only other team that I think has more than 2 wins in a row is the Ottawa Senators, who have a 3-game win streak going right now. Oh, the Oilers also have a 3-game win streak going right now. But my point still stands. The good news is the Sharks are not great on the road. They're only 6-12 and 5. And of their 46 games, like I said, they've only got 14 wins, a minus 41 goal differential. They are struggling to score goals and struggling to not allow goals. Goaltending has dipped a little bit in recent times with the trade. Yaroslav Askarov is probably their best goalie, and they are taking things real slow with him. So we'll see who starts for the Sharks, but the Blue Jackets need to take advantage of this matchup. this feels like a trap game almost. Like the Sharks have a habit of rolling into town and beating teams and then rolling out. Like they've beaten some good teams this season. Like they've beaten the Kings twice, who are currently third in the Pacific Division. They've beaten Vegas. They've beaten Edmonton this season, I believe. Like they've had some good games against good teams. However, like I said, Blue Jackets are rolling right now. They look very different to how they looked in that first game against the Sharks. Actually, I'm just going to pull up the roster for that game because I think it's going to be interesting to see who was playing where. So okay, in Venice, forwards are not that different. Chinakov's out, Danforth is out, but Chinikov was third on the team in ice time for forwards. He did have an assist on Marchenko's goal. That was when the Monahan Chinikov Marchenko line was still together. Zach Werenski played 31-26 in that game, so like we might expect to see that again. David Jiricek was in the lineup. Jack Johnson was in the lineup. So no Dante Fabro, and I think that's it for who am I missing from this? Zach Werenski, Dante Fabro, Provorov, and Matejchuk, obviously. So they've swapped Johnson and Jiricek for Matejchuk and Fabro, which I think is quite frankly a big upgrade. I will say Elvis was excellent in that game. 2 goals on 27 shots. He just wasn't as good as Vitek Vanacek, who, like I said, 49 saves on 50 shots. Blue Jackets got goalied in that game. Like that's the thing. They didn't even like play particularly badly. Is the thing, like they outplayed them in basically every aspect. The only thing they couldn't do was score on the power play, but they also went 4 for 4 on the penalty kill as well. The Sharks went 0 for 4 on that power play. They outshot them 50-27. They outface-offed them. Like they got goalied, like plain and simple. So like there's not like any there's not like you can't look at this game and be like, right, okay, well, if they do this instead of this in this game, then they'll beat the Sharks this time, because you can't just like decide to not get goalied, and I do think it'll be interesting on who starts for the Sharks in goal. Their last handful of games, Vitek Vanacek is out at the minute. He, I believe, is recovering from a fractured cheekbone, which sounds nasty, honestly. But Askarov has played. Let me pull up his stats. Take a drink, everyone. If you're playing the drinking game where Jay doesn't have the thing open that he wants open, but wants to talk about it anyway, Askarov is up with the Sharks at the minute. He's still not playing in like every game. They're really rolling kind of a tandem with him and Alexander Georgiev at the minute. So actually, they have neither of the goalies that they had when the Blue Jackets were in town at the end of October or the beginning of November, I think it was. So no Mackenzie Blackwood. He's in Colorado now. Vitek Vanacek is on IR. So it's going to be one of Alexander Georgiev or Yaroslav Askarov. Askarov hasn't played since January 11th, which was a loss to Minnesota. 3 goals on 22 shots, which was not great. But his last 3 starts before that, he was great. So we'll see what happens there. Askarov is, Georgiev is the other goalie. He played against Detroit a couple of nights ago. Big win. I think a 6-4 win with an empty net goal. So he was in net for that. So I do think that the Blue Jackets will probably see Askarov tonight, just because it does seem like they're trying to alternate between the two. 3 goals on 28 shots for Georgiev in that win. He had a couple of good performances after that. A couple of good performances before that. So losses to Utah and Vegas. But he had 923 and a 927. So the goaltending is picking up for the Sharks, but I still think the Blue Jackets need to take advantage of this team, who are struggling to score goals and allow goals. And I think if you can turn it into not necessarily a track meet, but we saw kind of at the beginning of the season, the Blue Jackets were really good at scoring goals in bunches. Like if you can put 6 goals past the Sharks, I don't think they're going to be able to. I think if you put 4 goals past the Sharks, I think they'll struggle to put 4 goals past you. I'm going to knock on wood because they did just score, I think, 6 goals on Detroit 2 days ago. So like, could happen, but this is a team that the Blue Jackets need to be beating as well. Like this is a team that is way below the Blue Jackets in the standings, not even almost in playoff conversation, is deep in a rebuild. They're basically where the Blue Jackets were like 2 seasons ago. And like if you want to be serious about making the playoffs, like you have to beat teams like this. Good teams beat bad teams. Great teams beat good teams. You know, that's not always true. Obviously, sometimes a bad team will beat a good team because hockey is a weird and wild sport. But for the most part, if you want to be considered a good team, and I think the Blue Jackets want to be considered a good team this season, you have to beat the bad teams, and that means beating a team like the Sharks. So we'll take a quick break, and then we'll take a look at who's been doing well for the Sharks in recent games, who to watch out for, and who the Blue Jackets need to pay attention to. So we'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I need to tell you about Indeed, because have you just realized that your business needs to hire someone yesterday? How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidate faster. I am not a business owner, but I am a business employee, and I do a lot of my job hunting when I am unlucky enough to have to be job hunting on Indeed. I think it's just the best site for it, so I can only imagine it is the best site to use if you are looking for employees as well. You can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's talk about who on the Sharks is doing well at the minute. Because it's a few of them. Like I said, the Sharks are not like a good team this season. They have good players. They have a lot of players. Again, they're the Blue Jackets 2 years ago. They have all the potential in the world. Can they keep taking steps forward? Every day, as we'll know, I am a Sharks fan by law or by marriage. My partner is a Sharks fan, so they are my team in law. I always call them, and I do see a fair amount of Sharks games when I am out in California. So I am probably more familiar with the Sharks than I am with any of the other Blue Jackets opponents, just because that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But they've got a really fun, exciting young core. William Eklund is currently one of the hotter players for them. He's got 7 points in his last 5 games, including 3 goals. Mikael Granlund is leading the team in scoring. He's got 48 points in 44 games, or excuse me, he's got 37 points in 44 games. I was reading the wrong chart there. Eklund, 34 points this season. Macklin Celebrini, probably going to win the Calder this year. 31 points in 34 games, playing as their 1C, and is doing a pretty good job of it. And so it's going to be really exciting. I'm going to talk about Adam Fantilli in a minute here, but Celebrini versus Fantilli, I think, is going to be interesting because Celebrini actually didn't play in the last game between these two teams, I don't think. So this will be his first time facing against the Blue Jackets, and Adam Fantilli is playing 1C for the Blue Jackets at the minute, so it'll not be so, normally it would be Celebrini versus Monahan, but it's going to be Celebrini versus Fantilli, which is going to be really interesting and exciting, I think. In terms of defense, they've got their own kind of like quote unquote reclamation project on defense. Instead of picking up their number one defenseman on waivers, Dante Fabro is not the Blue Jackets' number 1 defenseman, but their top pairing defenseman on waivers. They picked up Jake Warman in the summer. They got a 2nd-round pick for the privilege of doing so, and he's currently leading all Sharks defensemen in average time on ice, in plus minus, in points, in goals, and in assists. He's unseated Mario Ferraro as the number 1 defenseman, and quite frankly, has been a real revelation for this team. Like, they have like an actual good top pairing defenseman for the first time in ages, and again, they got a second round pick for the privilege of doing so. So he's definitely one to watch. Again, he's their Dante Fabro. You know, they don't have a Zach Werenski yet, which I think gives the Blue Jackets the edge. But Jake Wallman has been a lot of fun for the Sharks. He's missed some time with injury, but I believe he is back now. Yeah, he played the last 2 games, so he's just back from injury. So look out for him to be on the score sheet for the Sharks. But it's going to be those top 3. It's going to be the Granlund, Eklund, Celebrini trio that's going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. The Sharks are a fun team. Again, I don't think they're a good team, but they're a fun team. So it'll be interesting to see, again, what happens with the goaltending is going to be interesting. But if you're interested in a team that has a lot of like again, this is the Blue Jackets 2 years ago, except I would argue the Sharks probably have a better core to build from, just because they've had better luck in the draft lottery, so to speak. You know, the Blue Jackets don't have a first overall pick to build around. But they're where the Blue Jackets are 2 years ago. They've got their Kent Johnson in William Eklund. They've got their Adam Fantilli and Macklin Celebrini. Like, it's not a perfect 1-to-1 comparison, but they're getting there, and I think it'll be really interesting to watch this game, as long as the Blue Jackets don't get goal lead. We're going to take another quick break, and then I want to talk about which Blue Jackets to pay attention to in this game, and also who's going to start in goal for the Blue Jackets. So we'll do all of that in just a second here at Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about Game Time. I love going to last-minute Sharks games. When I'm in California, I will finish work and we'll realize, hey, we don't have anything that we're doing tonight. Let's go to the Sharks games. It's like $20, and we do that with Game Time. And Game Time has made it even easier for me to get tickets for Sharks games with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And because the Sharks are real bad, they have a bunch of tickets available because no one wants to go to the game. So Game Time will filter out all of the terrible seats and only show me the seats that are going to be great view, great price, great everything. And they've got all-in pricing, which shows the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout, which is great. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's talk about who needs to show up for the Blue Jackets. It will surprise no one to know that Zach Werenski is at the very top of this list. He's got 7 points in his last 5 games, is leading the team in scoring. We talked a bunch about Zach Werenski yesterday and how he might win the Norris and like could be in the conversation for the Hart. 50 points in 44 games. Fastest Blue Jacket to hit 50 points in a season. Like, he's doing all the right things. Kromachenko, another guy that's doing all the right things. 48 points in 44 games. Is turning into a really good all-around threat. So his first year in the league, he was a shooter. He had, I think, 21 goals and 4 assists or something like that. Second season, he figured out how to pass the puck, got a bunch of assists. This season, he's doing it all. He's become a really great two-way player. He is a dominant on-puck player and off-puck player. He's got real chemistry with Voronkov and Sean Monahan, who obviously is out injured at the minute, but he could be the elite winger that the Blue Jackets need. Just like full stop. You look at him, you look at Kent Johnson, who went a little bit quiet for a second there, but still has 24 points in 30 games this season. And like those two guys as your top 2 wings, Adam Fantilli in the middle, like, and then you've got, your complementary players. You've got your Voronkov, you've got your Sillinger, you've got your Chinikov. This core is exciting. So definitely look at those guys to get involved. I do want to talk a little bit about Cole Sillinger, actually, who has been on a little bit of a cold streak right now. But he's got 3 points in his last 5 games, scored against St. Louis, opened the scoring for the team, I believe. He scored the first goal on the power play as well. He's only got 7 goals so far this season, but 23 points in 42 games is on pace for a career high. By I think about 15 or so points, he's gonna outpace his current career high. And again, has turned into a really good middle six center that kills penalties, that plays all situations, and does a lot of things right. So he's a guy that I want you to pay attention to. Someone that I want you to pay attention to that isn't on this list of Blue Jackets on their roster, Luca Del Bel Belluz has been called up to fill in while Sean Monahan is on the shelf. He's been playing, again, middle six. He's kind of been playing a similar role to Sillinger. He's currently playing with James Van Riemsdyk and Kent Johnson, and again, is really bringing the energy on that line, and that's what they need on that line, you know? So you've got James Van Riemsdyk, the veteran. You've got the pure skill in Kent Johnson. You've got the energy in Luca Del Bel Belluz. Like, that's a really solid line. I still would replace James Van Riemsdyk with someone else. I don't know who off the top of my head. Like, maybe when Justin Danforth comes back from injury, he goes there. And he should be back soonish. But like, that's a pretty good line. And then you go down to the third line, and then that's where Cole Sillinger is playing with Zach Aston-Reese and Mathieu Olivier, which is where he's been spending a bunch of time this season, and that's been a really, really great third line. So lots of players for the Blue Jackets are kind of in the moment right now, let's say. And I do think that if they can score early, they can probably score often. And I think it's going to be a really fun game. Like, I've said that a bunch of times, but I do just think that it's going to be really interesting. Hopefully good interesting and not bad interesting. In terms of predictions, let's go ahead. Let's get confident. Let's say a 4-1 win for the Blue Jackets. Let's say I'm gonna say I think Cole Sillinger gets a goal tonight. I think he's not due necessarily, but I think he could use the bump, and I think he's starting to play that way. So let's say a Cole Sillinger goal. I think that would be fun. I would enjoy that. And a 4-1 win for the Blue Jackets. I just want to finish off by talking about how much I love the outdoor game jerseys. I just saw them as I was recording, and they are good as hell. I don't know if everyone else feels this way, but I love them. I'm just going to pull them up on the screen if anyone hasn't seen them yet. But they have the Cannon logo in the front. I love that. I love the Ohio outline around the A. I love the shoulder logo, the CBJ with the crossed hockey sticks. Like, this looks incredible. I love this. I was really worried that they were going to do like an OSU type thing and make it look like the football jerseys, but they didn't. They kept it simple, and they, quite frankly, have knocked it out of the park. So I really love these. I don't know that I can buy a jersey with a player's name on because I'm still cursed, but I might have to get one of these for just a blank one, just for my collection, because that is a really sick jersey. And that's kind of all I've got for today. Tomorrow we'll break down tonight's game against the Sharks. Hopefully we'll do the good, the bad, and the ugly. Hopefully more of the first than the second two. Thank you for listening, for being for making this your first listen of the day. Locked on Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms, on YouTube, and you can find us on social media as well. I'm at _Jacob Foster, JKOBFORSTER on Twitter. Same handle without the underscore over on Blue Sky. And the show is at LO_Blue Jackets on Twitter as well. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you once again for listening. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.